despite having a rough season on the field, the Gators, they still got a top 5 recruiting class. And this weekend, with their rival, the undefeated Florida State Seminoles coming to town, UF, they're looking to play spoiler and end the season on a high note. In this video, we're going to hit on a few key flip targets that are going to be in Gainesville. Will 5-star Jordan Seatan make an appearance? And what UF needs to do to keep this class together down the stretch. All right, Gator fans, hit that subscribe button to the On3 Recruits channel. We're growing this page. We need you to be a part of it. So hit subscribe, please. All right, let's bring on Corey Bender from Gators Online. And the two major flip targets on campus this weekend: 5-star wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, committed to Ohio State. We talk about him all the time, but I kind of want to focus on defensive lineman Dalyn Evans. Now, he's committed to Texas A&M, and it felt like Evans was on the verge of flipping to UF really at a few times throughout the summer, and then things just kind of quieted down on that front. But he's back in Gainesville this weekend, so what are you hearing on UF chances to flip him?
Yeah, Josh, I actually spoke with Dalyn late last night. He sent me a message around 12 o'clock last night saying that's the plan still, to go to Gainesville. We had him as a maybe before. That's because last Thursday he got surgery, so he didn't know if he could travel, his mobility and all that. But as of last night, which is huge news for Florida, he is planning to be in Gainesville. And I think Florida definitely has a real good shot. I think the X factor is who A&M hires as a head coach. He's obviously a Texas kid. He's loved the program for most of his life. But Florida's always been viewed as that number 2 school, like you said. He's been there in the spring. He went for an OV. And I think Florida, in order to flip him, they have to get him on campus one more time. Even if they didn't, I know they're going to do a series of in-home visits with him that will definitely make an impact. But I think for Florida, the main factor is kind of refreshing his mind on why Florida was always a threat, earlier in the year, and getting him back on campus. And as of today, he's heading back this weekend.
Yeah, and the Gators season kind of fell off, but so did Texas A&M's. And with the firing of Jimbo Fisher, there's a lot of teams that are looking at this Texas A&M commitment list. So do the Gators have any other competition for Dalyn Evans?
Yeah, there's schools like TCU. They got an OV over the summer too. Obviously, proximity favors them a little bit. Alabama's knocking on the door. I think a lot more schools will kind of emerge, knowing that, hey, this is a blue chip defensive lineman. Can't have enough of these kids, and obviously I think schools will have maybe a few slots left open, and then the class that kind of maybe they weren't planning on taking another D lineman, but with a talent like this, they could be pursuing him a little bit more. So I think Florida right now, they definitely have competition. I've heard about 5 to 6 schools linked to his name, but I think right now, I think A&M, they're still holding on. I think it'll determine on the head coaching hire, and I think Florida, you'd have to put them at that number 2 spot.
All right. Well, I can't wait to hear more about it after the weekend because, like you said, Dalyn Evans needs to get back into town before we kind of know what he's going to do next. Somebody that's coming into town I want to talk about, he's not committed anywhere, and that's Zavier Mincey. Number 61 overall. He goes 6'2.5", 175 pounds, and he's from Daytona Beach, Maryland. Now, Gator fans know that school because LJ McCray, the number 1 defensive lineman, is committed to the Gators, and he's also from Mainland High School. So I wanted to ask you, after that Miami game that Mincey attended like 2 months ago, he said he was ready to silently commit somewhere. He said he was going to do it, actually. And, he would let the whole world know in January. Do you think that he actually silently committed somewhere?
I don't. And we asked him about a month ago, and he didn't really want to comment on it. And even if he did, I think there's so much shakeup right now with the 4 schools. It's been Alabama, Florida, Miami, and Florida State. Miami and Florida have been the schools mentioned the most for probably most of this year. But I think right now his recruitment's pretty fluid. Alabama got an OV a few weeks ago. That really opened the door for them to kind of make him more of a realistic option for him. His brother, I believe, is Alabama State. Played for that football team. So then there's a little connection there if he wanted to go, live in Alabama when it was attending their school. So I think Florida State's the one school that could be the dark horse here. Obviously everything's clicking on all cylinders on the field. They were viewed as the 4th option for much of this year. But I think with the way they're winning on the field, obviously LJ and him both got on campus a few weeks ago or last week. And I think that visit could really kind of open the door and make them more of a realistic option. So I'm still giving Florida the very slight edge, and obviously having LJ in the class helps with that. And they'll both be on campus this weekend. So this recruitment's fluid, Josh. I could see it going a few different ways, and I think this visit in Gainesville this weekend will have a big impact on kind of where his heart's kind of leaning down the stretch.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think Florida maybe heading into this weekend is the team to beat, but I think Alabama running right there in second, and then FSU kind of the dark horse. I fully agree with that right now. I
Yeah.
think maybe, the results on the field, UF gets a big win this weekend. Hey, it could push it in the Gators' favor, but if Florida State can go into the swamp in front of Zavier Mincey and win another game, maybe they keep moving up in his list, but we'll see after that. We got to talk about five-star offensive tackle Jordan Seatan because he named a top 7. The Gators were in it, and he went to Knoxville over the weekend, and he came out of that visit saying, "Hey, this might be it for me. I might just wrap it up." But I get the feeling that if the Gators are going to really have a shot at Seatan, they need to get him back on campus. Do you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, and I think also too they have to they have to really do well in the in-home visit process too. I don't think it's really anything Florida's doing. I know obviously the wins and loss matter, but as far as relationship wise, I don't think it's anything Florida's doing wrong. I just think overall when he looks at this, I know NIL is a big thing. I think a lot of these schools you don't often see true freshmen O tackles start early on, but I think he's one of those guys. He could probably step in at several schools
Oh
next
yeah.
year and play. So I think Florida they need a lot of help at O line, so that helps. But I think overall, I think Florida, they're fading a little bit here. I know obviously communication is taking place. It is one of those games, Florida State night game, where you have a few surprises and guys show up. From what I've talked to a few sources, he hasn't been on the list as far as expected guy, but he could be one of those late additions, as he always says, just kind of stay
Yeah.
tuned and see where I head this weekend. So right now, I don't expect him in Gainesville, but if he did, that'd be a massive deal for Florida. But either way, if he goes or he doesn't end up on campus, Florida definitely has some good ground to make up right now.
Yeah, because right now his plan is to be at IMG Academy down in Bradenton for the weekend and not go anywhere. So I'm not, I know those are his plans, but Gainesville's only 2.5, 3 hours away. So there's always that chance. And I do agree with you. I think that the Gators are there. They're in the picture, but Oregon, Ohio State, there's just Tennessee. I think UF needs maybe a refresher in his mind and get him back on campus down the stretch to have a real shot. And we'll see what happens here. He's not that far away, but that's somebody I would keep an eye on if I'm Gator fans. Now, I want to talk about one other player.
Also, too, I'll mention too, Josh, too, Jeray Hawkins was on our visitors list, and obviously that would have helped if he would have stayed in Bradenton. Maybe he links on, but as of yesterday, we took him off the visitors list. He's back in West Virginia for break, so maybe that puts a twist into the plans too. But yeah, like you said, we'll kind of keep our eyes on it.
All right. Now, how important do you think a win is? Because we've kind of, when we're talking about the UF team and the UF commit list throughout this cycle, we've said that, hey, they've communicated with these recruits about the way that the season's going to go. They know what to expect. We expect Florida to weather this storm. Well, now the games are getting played. Florida isn't bowl eligible. Does this game matter when it comes to recruiting? What the results on the field, do they matter this weekend? Rivalry season is here, and you better have your tickets. There's still some great games left in the season, but you know what's not great? Finding last-minute tickets. Finding tickets before a game can be a nightmare. Do not let this be the way that your season ends. That's why I'm here to tell you about Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the big-time matchups. Game Time will get you to this year's biggest college football games with elite deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee. Don't stress over getting into your favorite team's biggest rivalry game of the year. There's only so many big games, and you need to get these tickets at the best prices. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Game Time has tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find last-minute tickets. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets on all sports and even concert events. So here's what we're going to do. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code INSIDESCOOP to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I think so for sure. I think everyone knows obviously both teams will be up without their starting quarterbacks. I think Florida has a real shot at winning this game. I really do. Just the fact is it's a swamp. I feel like the Tennessee game comes to mind too. Florida has a lot of talent. It's just they make a lot of crucial mistakes in my opinion, especially on defense. I think offense they should be fine. But as far as recruiting, yeah, I think it definitely the swamp's going to be obviously electric no matter what. It's the last game of the season, the night game in the swamp against your rival. I think a big win, obviously, versus a top-ranked team, even though everyone knows, hey, the FSU's without their starting quarterback, it's still something to kind of get excited about and get everyone back on Billy Napier's side.
Right.
I know I wouldn't say the seat's getting hot for him, but with the fan base it is, a lot of people, Florida, a lot of these Florida schools, they're eager for results right away. So I think either way, it gives them kind of something to kind of build off going into the evaluation period. And, us as adults compared to kids, we all look at stuff differently. A lot of these kids I've talked to, they say like, hey, I look at my position group only on the field and see the opportunities. So everyone looks at different things, but I think Florida needs this win just from a momentum standpoint going into recruiting season.
Yeah, I agree. I think throughout the summer, there was no hotter team on the recruiting trail than the Florida Gators. Then it kind of plateaued during the season. That's no surprise. When they're losing games, it's hard to add recruits. Now, going winless in November would hurt recruiting, I think, but winning that final game, it gives you momentum. It gives you that win in November. It gives you a win over your rival, like you said, and maybe they can take that momentum in and add to their commit list rather than just playing defense down the stretch. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Big game this weekend for Florida State. It's on Friday. Corey, we'll bring you back on the Inside Scoop to talk all about this big visit weekend on Monday.
Thanks for having me on, Josh.